Hello, hello. Welcome to the Algorithmic Justice League's 5th anniversary celebration of the Coded Bias documentary and the presentation of the Global AI Justice Award. I'm honored to be here with Dr. Jaleesa Trapp and Dr. Alexis Hope, who will join me shortly. They joined on the tour as delegates, and we had so much fun earning our degrees together at the MIT Media Lab. We are live streaming on Twitter X, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. You can be part of the conversation by using hashtag Coded Bias World Tour to follow along or give comments. I'm already seeing people in the YouTube live coming in from Nairobi and Chicago, some Boston-based folks. So keep telling us all where you are streaming from. So we are here to celebrate the Coded Bias documentary. The film sheds light on critical flaws in AI systems that threaten democracy and our basic rights. It tells the origin story of the Algorithmic Justice League to combat AI-related harm. The film follows our research into gender and skin type bias, as well as efforts to bring these sorts of issues before governments and major tech companies. It also features many AI trailblazers who are working to raise awareness about the dangers of unchecked AI systems. As AI continues to impact sectors ranging from criminal justice, housing, employment, the military, if you're following the headlines, the film emphasizes the need for informed discussions on technology oversight, accountability, and the protection of people's rights. Coded Bias actually premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2020. It has received many nominations and recognition. It's very acclaimed. So nomination from NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Documentary. We were nominated for an Emmy as well. And we're so proud to have been selected for the Critics' Choice Award for Best Science and Nature Documentary. We also have the distinction of a 100% fresh rating on the popular rating site Rotten Tomatoes. So today we will discuss the making of the film and the tour. We will also give out the first AJL Global AI Justice Award to a courageous individual who has been harmed by an AI system, someone who's been excoded but not forgotten. And we will end with the swag pack giveaway and, of course, some poetry. Before we begin, I want to reintroduce Jaleesa, Alexis, and myself. I am the poet of code, telling stories that make daughters of diasporas dream and sons of privilege pause. You might know me as the founder, president, and artist-in-chief of the Algorithmic Justice League, where we envision a world where data is not destiny, where AI decisions do not choke opportunities, and where everyday people, like the people streaming now, have the knowledge and power to shape AI systems to prevent harm and enjoy the promise of AI. And I will turn it over to Jaleesa to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jaleesa Trapp. I am the Senior Education Advisor for the Algorithmic Justice League. I'm an educator, researcher, and I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Joy when I started as a grad student at the MIT Media Lab. Dr. Hope, I've actually known since undergrad, but also got to spend grad school years with her as well. And I'm excited to be here. And Dr. Hope, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Alexis Hope. Yeah, I've known Dr. Joy for about 10 years now, and Dr. Trapp for almost 20, which is very hard to believe. I think I just dated our undergrad years there. Oops. I'm a product designer and a co-founder of a company called Focused Space. We are a social platform working in the productivity and mental health space that doesn't use AI, so we're a bit of an outlier there. Since we build tools to help people get stuff done while also connecting to the meaning and purpose behind their work and also other real human beings instead of bots, it's been really wild to see the way work has changed over the past few years and honestly, even just the past few months. If you want to learn more about what we're up to, you can check us out at focus.space. And I'm very excited to be here with my dear friends here and also you all. So let's get into the reason why we're all here, the 5-year anniversary of Coded Bias. Joy, I don't think many people know the behind the scenes story of the documentary. Can you tell us how it all got started?
It all got started with the very persistent filmmaker, Shalini Kantanya, who is the director of Coded Bias. She just kept reaching out to me in 2018. So first there was the Facebook message, then there was the LinkedIn message, then she found multiple email accounts of mine. So I said, okay, let me at least do a background check. Turned out she'd been a TED Fellow. We'd both done different projects through the Fulbright program. And she had also executive produced a documentary alongside Leonardo DiCaprio that was on Netflix. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should return this particular message. And so that was how we got introduced. As she started explaining her concept, she was thinking about a film on racist robots, which wasn't a frame that I was too enthused by, but I agreed to do a first interview, and that was in 2018. And it actually became a 2-year journey unfolding. And it shows my trajectory from a grad student, curious about why I'm putting on a white mask to have my face detected, all the way to testifying in Congress, traveling the world, meeting all of these AI trailblazers as well. And so one thing that I think back on is how few people supported the film in the beginning, and how when I would ask for support, I was actually sometimes warned that, this film might not go very far. Are you sure it's worth your time? Um, and given the topic, right? Is anybody going to care about a film related to AI harm? And look at the people who are in the film. A lot of us are experts who happen to also be women of color. So there were all of these reasons for why this film wasn't worth the time. And I realized that as much as Shalini was betting on me, I also had a bet on her and bet on the worthiness of the story. And it parallels the research that got AJL started. That research, when I first started it, I had similar kinds of pushback. Is this worth your time? You might be marginalized. It's not that important, and so forth. And it's just a reminder of how important it is to bet on ourselves, believe in our stories, and keep pushing, even if it takes the world 5 years, to catch up and so forth. It's still worth doing. And I want to ask a question to both you, Dr. Hope and Dr. Trapp. Do you have any memories of the film being made, or any scenes that bring back memories of our time together?
I remember, I think that what sticks out to me are just the shots of our messy office in the documentary. I think mess is what brings a lot of creativity in that space, but I'm like, man, maybe I should have cleaned up a little bit before they
That was
came
the
came in.
cleaned up version of our
I know.
office. It's like, I don't think it'd been that clean.
Like, for me, I'm still at the Media Lab. I'm a postdoc with the Lifelong Kindergarten Group. So I see it and I'm like, oh, this is what I see every day. But the filming part, I don't remember the documentary being made, but that's only because you always had cameras around. Like, there was always a camera. So I didn't even know that there was a documentary. It was regular to have cameras coming in and out of the civic space. So I didn't even know until you're like, oh, the documentary is done. I was like, oh, you're doing a documentary?
Yeah, no, I remember Soledad O'Brien came to film and we did a
Mhm.
segment there. And then, of course, we have so many rock star professors at the MIT Media Lab. So sometimes I think I was watching some Netflix documentary. I'm like, oh, they were filming that professor, right? Or
Yeah,
60-minute special. So it is true. We were definitely in a space where we had a big amplifier. I actually think I first learned about Dr. Hope's work through an NPR snippet on some things you were doing. So there was a huge benefit, honestly, for being based at the Media Lab as a place that would attract an amplification of the stories that were happening there for sure.
yeah. And speaking of amplification, it's one thing to have a film made. It's one thing to have all these cameras come into the Media Lab. Um, but it's another thing to have it premiere at Sundance and to have national attention and to be on a major streaming platform. So how did all of that happen?
No, that's a question I get oftentimes. How do you go from Shawnee sending you DMs to, all of the premieres and things like that? To be honest, I didn't know much about filmmaking. This was my first film project. And when Shawnee reached out to me to say that the film had been accepted at the Sundance Film Festival, I didn't realize that that was the premier place to have a documentary come out. It could have been Sundance, Moon Pie. I just knew she was excited. So then after she told me, okay, we're going to go to Sundance, I'm thinking, where is that? Park City, Utah. The previous winter I'd been, I think I was at the World Economic Forum, right? So I was like, okay, another cold winter. Here we come, Park City, Utah. But the other thing, even though the film had been accepted into Sundance, the film wasn't complete. So I do remember November, just a few months before the January premiere, thinking through different storylines, sharing them with Shalini, and then doing one final shoot, which involved me bringing 3 different outfits, 3 different pairs of glasses, which I had, so that we could have enough variety to fill in the remaining gaps in the film. And I remember going to the Cambridge Innovation Center, which was walking distance from the Media Lab. And Jimmy Day had allowed us to bring some additional equipment. And so we shot the filler scenes, all of that. Then they had to go catch a flight because it was still Thanksgiving time, you know. So they catch a cab or a ride share to get the flight. And I remember pushing all of the equipment back to the Media Lab and being so glad for the ramp, for accessibility and so forth. So there was work in front of the camera. There was a lot of work behind the camera, even setting up lights and things like that. So it took a lot of just passion and belief in the film and also willingness to do whatever it takes. It's like, okay, we got a story gap, let's brainstorm. I remember even brainstorming what the name of the documentary was going to be and going back and forth, not quite getting it. Then Shawnee's sending me a message. He's like, coded bias. I'm like, that's it. So much better than where we started with the racist, so you got to just believe and see what happens. So by the time we get to Sundance, we're in Park City, Utah. It happens to be the week of my 30th birthday. And so what a gift, to have that experience for that milestone as well. And then it was at Sundance that there was the opportunity to shop the film around. And we were really fortunate that Shalini's production company, Seventh Empire, they were able to distribute the film with PBS and then Netflix. And so Netflix came out in 2021. So that's how we go from a DM to Netflix streaming. A lot of work, a lot of belief. And also now that I'm a bit more familiar with what it takes to make a documentary, that this happened in 2 years is almost unheard of for documentary film. I didn't know what was normal. This was just the first one. So we got a nice, everything lined up in some ways, but we also worked really hard so it would line up. So now that you know how the film got made or almost didn't get made, let's get into the tour itself. And also don't forget to stay until the end for a little bit of the AJL swag pack giveaway that will be coming.
Love all that story. Speaking of the tour, what made you decide to go on a world tour with this movie?
That's a good question. Okay, so the world tour happened 2025. At the start of 2025, I did not know a world tour was going to happen, but I had an incredible opportunity to become an inaugural accelerator fellow with the Institute for Ethics in AI at Oxford University. They'd reached out the prior fall, said they had a new program if I was interested and that I could propose an idea. So I proposed an initial idea, which was around art exhibitions. And then what happened was I had an opportunity to go to the World Economic Forum as a young global leader. And while I was there, I was at Africa House. And I met an old colleague I hadn't seen in about 10 years, the founder of Kuala, Shiko Gitwa, Dr. Shiko. And as we were talking, she mentioned that they were going to have an AI Africa village at the AI summit that was occurring in Paris. And so we got to talking, and the thought was, oh, well, maybe you could bring the film there. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. And then AJL, we were going to RightsCon, which was in Taiwan, the biggest conference for human rights advocates and so forth. And we were presenting some work on our facial recognition in airport studies. And so that became another place. And that same January, I'd been invited to an AI talking circle with Gloria Steinem, and I met so many incredible women, including Dr. Chinasa Okolu. And she told me that she wanted to go to the Global AI Summit in Africa that would be happening in Kigali, but wasn't sure if she would have funding to do so. And AJL was able to help support her and others in attending. And so by the time we got to 3 invites where we would be doing a film, I went back to Oxford. I said, okay, I do want to do the art exhibition, but I think the screenings, a world tour of the screenings for Coded Bias could be timely, especially because of the third factor, which was our Netflix run came to an end in early 2025. So it was just as the film was going off of Netflix, there was then this opportunity to keep the story going with the world tour. So that's how it came to be. And it was a snowball of ideas, right? So first where to go was based on who I was meeting and who was inviting me to things, or where AJL was already showing up. And then as I was going, I thought, you know what, this would be fun to share. And I was talking to a friend, and she recommended that maybe I think through bringing delegations, right? So with people who had specific expertise to the place that we were going, that would very much enrich the conversations we were having while also being a learning opportunity for us. So the first delegation that I put together, which was a lot of fun to do, is the African diaspora delegation. And so that one featured Ugandan American composer Niles Luther. We had Egyptian American filmmaker Tamer Shaban. We had African American businessman Peter Irving. You'll see some of those there. And then, as I mentioned, because Chinasa Okolu, Dr. Okolu, she's the one who, let me know this was happening and that she needed some of the support. We were able to support her in going. And we're also able to recommend the entrepreneur Cristal Mombo Ziga, who you'll see there with the big hair in the photo. She's an entrepreneur, and she's been working on many great projects. And so it was just the right suggestion from the friend I was having that conversation with, and so this is how that element of the tour came to be, where we would start bringing delegations that were relevant to the specific area. So speaking of delegates, Dr. Trapp over here was one of our most frequent delegates. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience in that role and also how it supports your AI education work?
Yes. So first of all, um, you say delegation and like it was like some planned out thing. I got a text. I got a text from Dr. Joy asking me if I want to go to Taiwan in a week and a half. But that's not unusual. I said yes. Um,
It's not unusual for her to be all over the world in a week and a half, and it's not unusual to get a text like this from me. This is how films get made.
so I had the opportunity to go to Taiwan for RightsCon, and that was a really good experience because it's a huge conference. There's a lot of people there, but there was a lot of people interested in coming to see the documentary, even for the first time or for a second, third time, but to also start having a discussion about, how the film was made and it premiered in 2020, but a lot of the issues in the film are still issues that we have today. And starting to talk about what that meant, because it's a global conference, so what that meant in the different contexts of where people lived. And that was a theme that I noticed throughout the tour is being able to have the opportunity to talk to people. With my background being a high school computer science teacher, an educator, researcher, looking at the way young people learn, it was a great opportunity for me to learn the different contexts that young people learn around the world. So Taiwan was, I really liked the RightsCon conference. The next stop that I went to was Oxford. Oxford was hot. It was packed and it was hot. But I actually got to meet somebody who I got to meet on another stop in Oxford that we'll talk about a little bit later. But in Oxford, I guess it was record-breaking heat that day that we had this event. And so that's what I remember about Oxford. But I also just remember having the opportunity to meet so many different people from all over the world, even though we were in Oxford. What do you remember about Oxford?
Oh, so much. So for me, this was going back to where I had done grad school part one, West African perpetual schooling. You know how this can go sometimes, right? So we screened the film at Rhodes House. And we were in a very specific space where, as a student, I would go to socialize, do meet and mingle. So you're seeing that aerial shot. And there was no seat available. We had to open additional seats upstairs. It was fully packed. And so that contributed to the heat. We just happened to also hit a heat wave as well. But it was in some ways a full circle moment for me to go back to the space of Rhodes House, knowing that history, and then also present a documentary that's really about challenging power structures and who gets to be in the room, who gets to be a voice of authority. Also, the students asked some hard questions. They did not hold back at all. And so I really appreciated the opportunity to go to Oxford for this. And also, given that I was doing the Accelerator Fellowship, that was a place for all of us to come together. And you'll see some of the organizers and directors there as well.
Yeah, I think the next stop that I went on was Nairobi. And so Nairobi is a very special place for me. My aunt lives there, and we, in addition to doing the screening, we had the opportunity to explore a bit, as you see in the clip. But really, what I enjoyed the most about Nairobi was hearing from people who live in Kenya, who work in Kenya, who are from Kenya, talk about what AI means to them in their context of work, school. Even somebody talked about like teaching AI in the villages that they come from. So really having the opportunity to listen to what people's concerns, hopes, and dreams around AI was really special.
Yeah, no, I every time I went to another location, it became my favorite location, right? I was like, oh, I love this look. I love this. But I remember in Nairobi being on the panel and feeling like a student, which was wonderful because oftentimes, I'm speaking and I know what I'm going to say and hear the questions they were asking, but also the experiences they were sharing about AI sovereignty, about policy sandboxes, all of that. I felt the audience could have been in the panel, honestly, the questions they asked, the insights they brought. So for me, this was a very special opportunity, and I'm so glad we had that time together.
Yeah, and then also what we got to do in Kenya was we actually got to go to an electric bus factory called Basi Go. And that was special because we were hosted by Marian Muthui, who is an MIT Media Lab alum and the head of manufacturing. And what we were able to do there, in addition to getting a tour and seeing the buses built from the ground up, was we hosted a workshop. And so we got to do a workshop with the employees there who typically have an hour a week where they have what we call recess, where they present a workshop idea. So we were the first people to come that not at the company, but they got to play around with facial recognition. And when I say play, they played. They were pulling out props from everywhere, putting on hats, glasses, and we're in a workshop full of laughter, but then also having serious conversations about what it means for them on their day-to-day commutes to work, what it means for their families and what they can do about and how to advocate for themselves. So that was really special because, yeah, Marian, we got to spend a lot of time together in grad school, so it was really cool to be able to go and do this workshop with her.
Absolutely. And I mean, for me, a workshop in a workshop, I was liking it on that front as well and seeing how well that workshop has traveled. We started that workshop actually in Boston at the Boston Public Library, exploring how AI reads your face. And I've seen it take on many different forms and been done in different contexts. And I never imagined we would be in Tika, Kenya, doing the workshop at an electric bus company. And even Miriam, when you were talking about all the camera crews and things like that, I remember her first day at the Media Lab. That's when Soledad O'Brien was there, and she was sitting in for me as they were testing, the lighting and things like that. So we would have had no idea years later we would meet again in this context. So that was definitely one of many highlights of the trip. I want to turn our attention to another place that felt like a beautiful full circle memory for me, which was actually bringing the tour to the American South. It's world tour, but you got to do some things at home, right? And so we went down to Oxford, Mississippi, where I grew up and attended elementary school. And we visited Miss Green's computer science classes, not for the upper elementary school, but for the kindergartners and first graders. They were already learning to code using Scratch, which actually comes from the group that Dr. Trapp is a part of. And so I would love for you to take a look at the brilliant work Miss Green has been doing. Returning to my first elementary school I attended in the United States was an exercise in hope and remembrance. Remembering the joy of learning and discovering new capacities. Remembering the principals and teachers who encouraged us and taught us lessons beyond the curriculum. Lessons like sharing and teamwork. Reminding us of our creativity, resilience, and brilliance. I feel hope not because kindergarteners and first graders are learning the code early, but because the rainbow of this nation is reflected in the classroom. Like Miss Green says, let's keep trying even when we make mistakes, because that's how we get better. Yeah, that's a fun memory. I was reading Hungry Hungry Caterpillar and I skipped one page and you would have thought it was over, right? Oh, you skipped a page, go back. But so great having an opportunity to visit Miss Green's class and then also show the film at my first public library that my older brother used to take me to when I was a little kid. I didn't realize that library had a second floor. All the kids' stuff was on the first floor. So going back, I'm like, was the second floor always here? And so it was just wonderful connections all around. So then we went from Oxford, Mississippi to Oxford, England. I was like, I had to do it, right? Oxford to Oxford. And so we were hosting in the very hot Rhodes House that moment, and I would love to bring you into that full experience. So I think we have a clip of that space as well. Welcome to the first ever screening of Coded Bias at Oxford University. So now we hit play and the show will go on.
We saw lots of examples in this documentary about how AI systems can really entrench these biases. What would you like to see?
I think what I'm seeing, so I work for an ethics and AI institute, right? And what gives me hope is people like you, Joy, people like us sitting here on a hot Saturday afternoon.
We actually include coded bias in our syllabus.
I've come here hoping that I'm going to get a chance to see her. This is so wonderful to see the product.
Yes. Fresh off the boat are some of the only copies of Unmasking AI you can find in the UK.
Oh, it gives me
Dr. Hope, what gives you
I
hope?
think young people, to get back to, some of the conversations that Jaleesa and I had about, her work and all the times I get to work with students. I think they're really creative.
The documentary Coded Bias exposes critical flaws in AI systems that threaten democracy and fundamental rights. It's bringing this landmark documentary to global audiences.
Today's event marks the first ever Oxford screening of the documentary.
Do you want to become an agent of change?
I'm hoping that people take a step back and really analyze how people are using AI across the country and across the globe.
We need to understand how people are experiencing AI.
One thing that's on my wish list are biometric rights and also creative rights.
How can we today, not as researchers, but also as everyday people, organize to stop the general trend of descent into a techno-oligarchy fascism?
We literally occupy our parliament peacefully for 3 weeks to deliberate. But the good thing is that we're not just protesters, we're demonstrators.
You touched upon so many themes that we should be concerned about that have only exponentially been amplified in the past 5 years since this film came out.
Watching this on Netflix actually inspired me to do that career switch. Now I'm actually in AI policy and financial regulation, which is actually allowing me to have a voice.
What keeps me up at night? Lethal autonomous weapon systems, because we're at a time where some will say the future of peace, the other side of that is the future of war.
We're both MIT students.
We actually analyzed one of Joy's poems in one of my classes on technology and culture.
To the Brooklyn tenants and freedom fighters around that world, that means you persisting and prevailing against algorithms of oppression, automating inequality through weapons of math destruction.
I'm a postdoc at the University of Oxford, and we're looking into how can we empower children and young people to have agency in the age of AI.
You see some young people not really learning how to use AI as a tool, but instead using it as a replacement for human interaction.
But also got a reinvigoration for my own work, which I think is really, really powerful.
One of the ways in which we can help and play a role building better AI products is to move away from just the kind of foundational model building into really asking what kind of tools work in the real world. And that
1, 2, 3, coded bias! Coded bias! Thank you.
All good. So lots of enthusiasm, as you can see. And I would love to turn it over to Dr. Hope on the Oxford UK tour stop. I was glad you were able to join us as a delegate on that one and would love to hear your experience there.
Yeah, I think watching that just reminded me how inspiring it was to be in a room full of so many people who really care deeply about how the future is going to unfold, even on a hot Saturday. But other than that, honestly, what strikes me most is how quickly things have changed, even since just 6 months ago, and that was film. So even in just the past few months, the software engineering industry has been dramatically transformed. And then even just this past week, we have the US government pressuring Anthropic for their tools to be used for mass surveillance and autonomous weapons. So things are fast and furious right now. We're figuring out the future and the present in real time. And many of the theoretical things that we discussed just 6 months ago are no longer theoretical at all. They're happening now. So very, very timely.
Absolutely. And I've been talking about lethal autonomous weapons since about 2019, when I had an opportunity to serve on the EU Global Tech panel. One of our board members, Megan Smith, was on the panel and then recommended that I join her, and they were gracious enough to have me come in and start warning, EU defense ministers that as we're thinking about the future of AI, there will come a point where there's this intersection with lethal autonomous weapon systems. And what are we going to do about it? And what are the risks around it? So I was showing the research of the Algorithmic Justice League and saying tech vendors might not show you these limitations, but it's really important to understand that even though there is the promise of precision, which generally tends to happen with new weapons, which is, okay, we can be more efficient. And so that will mean fewer deaths. History does not show that. You become more efficient and more people are targeted at a pace unseen. And we're already starting to see AI being used to target individuals in different conflicts around the world. And so this conversation about lethal autonomous weapon systems that has been ongoing, you have campaigns like the campaign to stop killer robots, with what we're seeing with the standoff with Anthropic and the US government and very much military right now is showing us how high those stakes are, and that there should be red lines when it comes to how far AI can go, and should AI make a kill decision, and that to me has always been a major red line when it comes to AI harms that are not even just far off, are actually happening. And I remember when I used to talk about lethal autonomous weapon systems in this space, it was very much seemed as something a bit theoretical. And I wish it had stayed in theory, but here we have to make some really important decisions this year, truly, because once you start accelerating the use of AI within a military context, it doesn't just stay in the military. The tools and weapons of war end up at our streets, end up at your doorsteps as well. And so on that note, right, I think it is important that we have many more voices than just a few tech companies or a few governments or a few armies deciding what the future of AI looks like. And that's part of why I was so excited for the opportunities we had to go around the world and hear from different leaders and inspiring individuals. So going to Kenya, again, like I said, it was such an incredible experience with the workshop. Within the workshop, we also did a podcast while we were there. And I had a chance to see Dr. Trapp become a journalist, interviewing some of the people we met there and hearing their hopes and dreams. So hopefully we can roll that now.
Hi, my name is Dr. Julissa Trapp. I'm a senior education advisor with the Algorithmic Justice League. And we're here in Nairobi at the Baraza Media Lab.
Hi, I'm Gloria from Kenya. I create content on women's sports.
I'm Maurice Otieno, Executive Director at Baraza Media Lab.
My name is Edwin Gitonga. I am the Program Manager for the Creative Economy here at Baraza Media Lab.
So after watching the film, what reflections do you have?
I felt spoken to because they're talking about the importance of storytelling and changing the narrative with a lot of this stuff. As a content creator, that's literally what I do. So maybe this is a way to expand my content.
It made me clearly understand what goes behind getting AI models as they are and the journey that affects Africans in ensuring that we fully adopt this technology moving forward.
But when we talk about technology like AI, we remove the human being at the center, but really the consequences and the challenges that people are facing through this technology are life-shattering. So that documentary today was basically unearthing that and personalizing it. And not having it as a very abstract conversation about human rights and AI. It's more about life.
What is your hope for Kenya when it comes to AI?
I would love to see Kenya position itself at the place where we are at the forefront of fighting for our culture, our heritage, and everything that aligns with who we want to be. So that is what I would love for Kenya to actually be at the heart of this development, both in AI and also in tech.
It's a bit wild, but I would say AI sovereignty. Like, it's very hard to just define the whole continent as one group of data, So being able to embrace our differences and have AI sovereignty in each region and actually including different languages, different groups of people and building AI according to what the community needs. Because tech is just a tool and we're the drivers. So if you can get the right drivers, it would be amazing for the future of Kenya.
My hope is that we stop engaging with it as a far-fetched technology and to engage with it as a technology that is already here or has been here for a while. And that means we take it a bit more serious and take the consequences a bit more serious.
Do you have any plans to keep this conversation going across Kenya?
This event happening here is just an indication that we do need to actually accelerate those discussions and not only accelerate it in locations where we are in, but also with communities that we are not in. So yes, it's something that we are committed to. We're going to do it. I think now with a bit more focus and acceleration.
This is not only a Nairobi thing, it's something that is going out there so that even our grandparents back in the village can be able actually to understand how this affects them and also be aware of how we are able now to diversify this information and make it accessible to everyone.
I would love you guys to come again and maybe pass by more locations in Kenya, not just Nairobi. Spreading out the awareness would really create impact. Yeah.
All good. Well, I can definitely tell you we want to go back to all the locations. And that was the hardest part, honestly, about the tour. We had incredible invitations from all around the world. So how to choose? And sometimes it just meant if the schedule lined up, and, it was hard when we'd have a great invitation, but we couldn't necessarily go. But we also, during the tour, had do-it-yourself screening. So for example, we had a screening in December in Nepal. We had a screening in Australia as well, Chicago, a few other places. And we're looking forward to being able to continue to support do-it-yourself screenings as well. But yes, we would love to come back to every place we went to. One area of the world that I have been receiving invitations to come to for about 5 years is Brazil. So finally, I had the opportunity to come to Brazil to show Coded Bias, first literally on the Amazon River as part of a learning journey that I took with other young global leaders. And it was trip of a lifetime, honestly. When I, even just look back at some of the photos and some of the videos, it doesn't seem real that we were there. We went to Christ the Redeemer. I actually ended up performing AI Ain't I a Woman, one of the poems AJL is known for. There's a chapel under Christ the Redeemer, which was there as well. And so after we went from Manaus, which was a beautiful experience, we then went to Rio, where we were being hosted by the Brazilian Creative Learning Network and about 8 other organizations as well. We'd met Black Diaspora, and they helped us with the translation. So when you'll see our playback videos, you'll hear that it's in Portuguese. And to that point, this was the first stop of the tour where we screened the film in Brazilian Portuguese. It had been screened in English everywhere else. And so that was also just another way of localizing and bringing the film in a way that would feel more resonant. And so again, I'm just so grateful that we had this opportunity. And while I was there, I received so many beautiful gifts, including letters and ordinances. And I just want to say thank you to everybody in Brazil who welcomed us and all of the translators who got us to understand what was going on as well.
So if you're watching from Brazil, you know that in Brazil, you always have 5 backup plans to your backup plan, and that things may not always go as planned. But so, Dr. Joy, what surprised you most about Brazil?
Oh my goodness. I think one element that surprised me was the pervasiveness of facial recognition. So I'd been reading about the adoption of facial recognition within Brazil, but it didn't hit home until while I was there. I was invited to attend a soccer match with some of the other young global leaders who had been convened. And I was excited to go, experience this with these new colleagues. And then I learned that the only way to get into the stadium was to use facial recognition. There were no meaningful alternatives or backups. I couldn't use my passport while I was there. You could use your passport to verify your face on the app. But then when you would come to the actual gate, it was just your face. And so that was a moment where I had to decide, am I going to walk the talk? And meaning that I wouldn't have those memories. And I decided in this case, I was there for a reason, and the reason was to have the conversations and also to show what's at stake. So I decided that for me, it was not the right choice to attend. And it also made me start thinking about not just the stadium, but other areas in which the face becomes the ticket or the entry or the key or the authenticator, and how easy it is to then be removed from systems. So it's one thing if you have an ID and then the ID is checked and so forth, and even then you can have some problems. Now, if it's just your face and you've done something and the government is not happy with you, and the way you access your benefits, right, or the way you vote is based on biometric, it becomes very easy to erase you digitally. And so if you don't have that physical component linked anymore, it actually puts people in a really precarious state. And so this was not something I thought I would have to grapple with in real time. I thought I would be speaking about it in a broader way, not in my personal life, but here we were.
I think that story is a really great example about how it can be super hard to make decisions in the moment when it's something you have to do, or even just something you really want to do, like go to a football game. Jaleesa, as an educator, I know that you've been working on some really great things in this area lately. Can you tell us how folks can find more resources to help themselves make decisions in their daily life?
Yes. So as the senior education advisor, I've been looking at ways to look at what AJL has already been doing and develop more learning materials and resources to go along with the coded bias and just resources that educators can use in their learning spaces, whether it's a classroom, a library, because I think it's very important that when we talk about harms, we also talk about AI literacy. So people understand how these systems work so that they understand what their rights are, that they understand what they're opting out of. And so if you go to ajl.org/learn, you can find the resources that already exist. And soon there'll be more resources that you all can use. And there's another resource that I think people have been waiting for that Dr. Joy can share.
Yes. So I shared that when we started the tour, it was right as Coded Bias was no longer available on Netflix. And I'm happy to announce you can now watch Coded Bias right now on YouTube, on Apple TV Plus, and on Prime Video as well. And so if you go to the links that you should be seeing coming on your screen and cycling through, you'll have an opportunity right now. Put it on your TV. I think Jaleesa was there when I first saw it appear on Apple TV Plus. I was telling her, I think it's on here. And then she knew based on my facial reaction. It reminded me of the first time I went to Netflix and I saw Coded Bias there. And I think it was the face of one of the Brooklyn tenants. And to know that the story had traveled that far and was that widely available, when again, we go back to the very beginning of, pushing the equipment, helping set up lighting, being told that this film might not go very far and I might be wasting my time. Anytime we get opportunities where the film gets to reach more people, I do not take it for granted because I know where we started and I know how hard it was to get to this moment. And I hope people watching this view this as an encouragement, right? You might be working on a project that isn't getting that much support right now. And success doesn't have to mean streaming, on YouTube or Apple TV Plus or anything like that. I mean, for me, success was being at that electric bus company with the small group of caring individuals, exploring concepts that actually made a difference in their life and seeing people understand an aspect of technology or think about it in a way they hadn't encountered before, or not just even think about it, experience it. And so on the tour, when we heard that, Coded Bias inspired people to study computer science, change their career path, or even feel seen. I remember a young woman in Kenya coming up to me, tears in her eyes, saying that it wasn't just the work that we did at AJL, but who does the work, and feeling seen because of that. I remember seeing Alexis when we were at Oxford, UK. Probably the youngest person in the crowd was maybe 8, and the oldest was probably in their 80s. We had a huge range, and there was a man who unfortunately had recently lost his wife, and he had brought his 2 young daughters. He thought that this would be something they would find encouraging. And I just looked at the way that they were staring at Lexus, seeing themselves represented and seeing a path that could be there for them. So I do not underestimate the importance of who tells the story, who gets to be centered. And so again, yes, it's great to be on all of these platforms, especially because when it came off of Netflix, the educators in my inbox and DMs, this was already part of a curriculum. They had plans, and now they go to Netflix and it's no longer there. Where's the film? What do we do? And so I'm glad we could also tell the educators, yes, it is available. We have multiple options as well. So yes, please check it out.
Yeah, the film lives on. And yeah, to the educators, especially the ones who came up to me at the CSTA conference this summer. It is back on streaming. You can go back to screening as part of your curriculum. So it all comes back to the question of why are we doing this work?
We're doing it for the X-coded. I'm glad you asked.
Exactly. The individuals and communities who've been negatively impacted by these systems, which brings us to, I want to say exciting, but also an important part of this program where we have the presentation of the Global AI Justice Award. We had nominations from all over the world inspired by our world tour. And before we announce the winner, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the nominees. So Gloria from Kenya, who you got to see in one of the videos, was a really strong nominee. Nina Daora from Brazil, who you also got to see in some of the photos, and Dr. Lillian Wanzari from Kenya. So congratulations to you all for the nominations. And before Dr. Joy announces the winner, I just want to remind you all to stay till the end for the AJL Swag Pack giveaway. So, Dr. Joy.
Thank you. So now it's time to turn to the Global AI Justice Award. So the Global AI Justice Award is designed to honor a recipient who has experienced AI harm, taken the risk of voicing their experiences, and actively work to prevent future harm. While there are contests and awards that recognize the efforts of researchers like me evaluating AI systems, this award seeks to address the fact that there are very few avenues through which those impacted by AI harm are publicly celebrated and recognized for their contributions in the fight for algorithmic justice. This year's winner is Megan L. Garcia, the mother of Suel Setzer III, whose life ended too soon at the age of 14 after harmful chatbot interactions. I had the honor of meeting Megan at the Vatican and seeing her brave advocacy in action. We're so grateful to Megan Garcia for her resilience and leadership. The unaccountable and irresponsible use of chatbots and so-called AI companions, despite well-documented limitations, is causing completely preventable harm. This is especially true when these systems are used by children. We salute Megan for lifting up the tragic death of her son following these unfortunate repeated interactions with character AI, and to warn parents about these systems and demand accountability. I could not be more honored than to present Megan Garcia with the Global AI Justice Award. And I'm also pleased to announce that we will be giving her a $5,000 honorarium. So Megan, we're happy to have you here and would love to turn the floor to you for your acceptance remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is an honor for me to accept the first ever Global AI Justice Award. I'd like to thank the Algorithmic Justice League for recognizing the advocacy work that I've been doing over the past year and a half in warning parents and also lawmakers about the dangers of AI chatbots. It warms my heart to know that there are good people that are fighting along with me in this fight, but also who recognize and understand what my mission is and understand my commitment to this very important mission. Tomorrow will be 2 years since I've lost my son Sul to suicide after engaging with an AI companion chatbot. And it's been a very difficult time, but I understood that unless I did something to warn other people about these dangers, that other families would suffer because of this emerging technology. And that's something that I didn't want to see happen over and over again. So my particular brand of advocacy comes from the love I have for my child and wanting to have his memory be a blessing to the world, but also to out of my care and love for humanity and wanting to see humanity flourish. I am so proud to be in a league of fighters, along with everybody on this program who are fighting on the right side of this fight, and who recognize the harm and who stand up for what's right and stand up for what's human. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to doing more advocacy and great work in the future.
Absolutely. Well, it's an honor to be in this fight with you. We are also looking forward to ways we can continue to support you. And we have a global audience watching right now, and I'm sure they would love to understand ways in which they can support you. So please do share anything that you would like the audience watching right now to do.
I think awareness and education is key in this fight. So we're going to have to educate everybody far and wide. So with Soul's story, if you can tell his story to anybody with children, parents, teachers, school counselors, that helps, because when parents and educators know about this danger, they can act. And by acting, they could help save a child's life.
Oh, that's incredible. Really powerful. We believe in the power of having a voice and a choice. We believe if you have a face, you have a place in the conversation about AI. And so AJL would not exist if not for the power of storytelling and the courage of one voice to share an experience, and that experience seeding others to know they're not alone. So thank you so much for that. And we'll continue to tell his story and yours.
Thank you again, Megan. And I will make sure that I continue to tell Soul's story and your story. And we're also grateful for your advocacy. We have one more item for you all before Dr. Joy ends us out with a poem, because what's an AJL event without poetry? As part of the 5th anniversary celebration, the Algorithmic Justice League is doing a giveaway for a swag pack, which includes a laptop case, a mission pack, an opt-out jacket, and patches to one lucky winner. Dr. Joy's holding up some of the swag that we'll be giving away. So Stephen Lieberman, check your email for details. Congratulations. And now I will pass it off to Dr. Joy to close us out.
Thank you for that, and congratulations. This is the hottest swag we have, and it doesn't last. Anytime we would go to a location and we would bring swag, I would see it at the entrance and maybe come back 10 minutes later, it was gone, all the way gone. So we have reached the end of our finale, and as artist-in-chief, I must end with a poem. But before the performance, I want to remind you that there are many ways to stay plugged in to the fight for algorithmic justice. So we need your help to continue to share important stories, and your donations go directly to our programmatic efforts. So you can donate, and you can also support us by purchasing swag. If you did not win today, you can still look swaggy. Go to shop.ajl, and that's another way you can continue to support our efforts. If you want to stay up to date about events like this when they're coming, AI news and analysis, do consider joining our community and signing up for the AJL newsletter. And then there's social media. We are at AJL United. Yes, inspired by Manchester United. Don't come at me, So if you want to follow us on socials, there you are. And I have to thank our incredible production team behind the scenes. So Oz Effect with Jane and Lady Who Productions. We have Megan Adele Lopez. We got a lot of Megans in the AJL family. So thank you so much for putting together such an incredible live stream event. And I want to thank you, the audience, for making time on a Friday evening or Saturday morning, late night, really appreciate it. Knowing people are tuning in from all over the world. And I must thank my sisters, Dr. Hope and Dr. Trapp, for your continued friendship, for all of the great memories, for bringing your expertise to the many great locations we had an opportunity to experience together. And then finally, a special thank you to Megan L. Garcia, who is in Rome. She's literally fighting the fight right now, and she made time to come and accept this award while it's 1 a.m. So we do not take that lightly, and we're so grateful for your presence here. And now, without further ado, as artist in chief, I will leave you with a poem. This one is called The Excoded. To the excoded, sons, daughters, fathers, and mothers, resisting and revealing the lie that we must accept the surrender of our faces, the harvesting of our data, the plunder of our traces. We celebrate your courage. No silence, no consent. You show the path to algorithmic justice requires a league, a sisterhood, a neighborhood, hallway gatherings, Sharpies and posters, coalitions, petitions, testimonies, letters, virtual celebrations, research and potlucks, dancing and music, everyone playing a role to orchestrate change. To Megan L. Garcia and freedom fighters around the world, persisting and prevailing against algorithms of oppression, automating inequality through weapons of math destruction. We stand with you in gratitude. You demonstrate the people have a voice and a choice. When defiant melodies harmonize to elevate human life, dignity, and rights, the victory is ours. Thank you. Cue my theme music. I have some facial recognition blockers somewhere. Let me see. We got a few options. We got the red ones. We got these ones.